Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings the podcast.
Well, Lord, that's a good pod. I'd listen to it.
Okay, let's start. Let's try that again. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Graham Thompson, not along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I like cards, I guess.
You just like them, I guess?
Yeah, I guess. And I was going
to say, has something taken over the love of cards that you once had? Has there been something that has pushed out that love?
No, if anything, it's grown more during quarantine, right? Because it's a good hobby to have when you're quarantined in.
Right. It is.
You know, I see a lot of other people who are they struggle to entertain themselves when businesses are closed, and I'm like, I have a infinite source of entertainment at my fingertips that'll accommodate me, my friends, and it'll follow social distance policies. It can be done that way. So, no, I love them. Let's talk about them. Let's talk about cards, and let's talk about patrons.
Patrons. Yes, Ted. Thank you for bringing up the patrons. We have a list that is growing and growing, so thank you to all our amazing patrons. I'd like to send a thank you out to Daniel, David, Jason, Joseph, Justin, Kyle, Lewis, Matt, Mike, Dominic, Phil, Rob, Robert, Russ, and Sean. And this week we want to send a special thank you to Matt, who just joined the ranks of being a patron. So Matt, thank you so much for your patronage of our show, and we love it. If anybody else wants to become a patron, I will put the thing right down here so everybody can see it. Patreon.com/cardtalk2018. And you can join us and help produce the show. And that makes you eligible for swag for the October season. I'm unsure if Con of the Rings is going to happen this year. So if it happens, we will try to have swag ready for Con of the Rings. If it does not happen, then we will make sure we send the swag out to everybody through the mail service. So
what David means to say is, if Con of the Rings isn't happening, we will still try and have swag for Con of the Rings.
Right. Yeah. We're still going to have swag. That's what I'm going to say. And if you want to become a patron and get your hands on the swag, feel free to join us at... I'll flash it up one more time right here. Woo! There it is. Patreon.com, cardtalk2018. Okay.
Yeah,
but the patrons... however much we love the patrons, we have to go on with the show. And so, yes. Grant, what card are we going to be talking about today?
Probably one of the best allies in the game, from the Antler Crown adventure pack. Treebeard, the neutral ally for 4 cost, 2 willpower, 4 attack, 3 defense, and 5 hit points. He's an Ent. He cannot have restricted attachments. Treebeard enters play exhausted and collects 1 resource each phase, each round.
Collects 1 resource each phase.
Wow, he's great.
Wait, why he did? I see why you did it, because when you're reading it on Hall of Bjorn, it says it collects 1 resource each resource phase. So it looks,
These resources can be used to pay for Ent cards played from your hand. And as an action, you can pay 2 resources from Treebeard's resource pool and ready an Ent character.
That's wild. Grant, go right in. What do you think of Treebeard? Treebeard ally.
He's amazing. Definitely, probably the best version of Treebeard. Yes, we've had Treebeard Hero on before that. We did just before Christmas, or for the Christmas period, I should say. And I think he's very much overshadowed by Ally Treebeard, and quite frankly, he's probably one of the better neutral allies that we have in the card pool.
I agree. Ted, what's your Treebeard thoughts? Now, don't be hasty when you come out with them, but let us.
Don't be hasty.
I also agree. Next episode.
Right, right.
Let's bring this guy.
My goodness. Yeah, Ally Treebeard. He hits on every single mark that he is. You know, he's 4 cost, but he's neutral, so it lets you slot him into virtually any deck. And no matter what deck you decide to put him in, he pulls his weight because of his ability to collect resources and ready himself. Because his stats are so high. You know, he does so much. He can be a deck's defender. He can help add immense attack power to a deck that lacks it, and he's unique. But he's one of those few allies too that I'd actually I'd put in 3 allies of Treebeard in decks before, just to make sure you see him coming out. Yeah, he's wonderful. He's a favorite for thematic reasons, and he's all around a good guy. Ally Treebeard.
Well, essentially, I think he's more neutral than good. He may have been good once, but then he just decided.
Listener note: Grant just got back from his D&D session, so he's talking. He's actually lawful neutral. He doesn't really care about rules, but he always abides by them. But,
basically. But no, I like that he doesn't have to fit into a specific end deck. He can be played outside of ends, and his ability still works because he can ready himself.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yes, he works better with, like, say, some other ends like the Welling Hall Preserver or Quick Beam, so you can get more out of them. But at the same time, he doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first ally that is self-contained, I feel like. You don't need to build an Ent deck or have other decks or other Ents in the deck like the Welling Hall Preserver or the Durndinga Warrior or Treebeard, Quick Beam. Like, you don't have to have any of those other cards to have Treebeard in your deck. And because you can build resources up on him and use him multiple times per round if you have the resources, like, he has self-readying. Like, this card is, I remember, Ted, you weren't with us, but Grant and I, when we had Chad Garlinghouse on the show, he was one of our very first guests, and he still gives me a hard time. Even in the most recent episode of Cardboard of the Rings, he was talking about how I was joking around that Haldir was going to defend. But that said, he also puts Treebeard in the deck, Ally Treebeard in decks, and I accused him of cheating because, like, Treebeard is just that good. If you need an ally to make your deck attack or defend, Treebeard is the go-to ally. Like, there's no reason to not put Treebeard, and that penalty of having to wait around to put him to use him. I mean, sure, there's ways around that, but there's also, like, that's not a huge issue, in my opinion. So, like, he's the Ent that I go to always make my decks that much better from an ally standpoint. What were you going to say, Ted? I heard you breathe over there.
Yeah. Creeping on me, David?
Yes. Well, I'm also hearing Katie snore, so I don't want to, like, she's obviously got a lot to say too because she's over there snoring about Treebeard. But we'll get to her in a minute.
Because of Treebeard's, his cost is high. I mean, 4's a lot to invest, but he's worth the investment. A common strategy I see with a lot of players is to, very commonly he's paired with leadership cards that can put him into play, not necessarily during the time when he should be played. Examples of cards are Timely Aid, Send for Aid, the side quest, and a Very Good Tale. A lot of people will use Very Good Tale to bring him out at the end of the turn during the refresh phase. And then you have those allies exhausted for a very good tail, but then you have a ready Treebeard for next turn if you're lucky enough to get him off the top of the deck, or use some other types of trick to arrange him on the top of your deck. There's numerous ways to do that too.
Right. I want to add Elfstone to your list of cards that I see paired with Treebeard a lot. It seems like Treebeard makes it into a lot of lore decks, and Elfstone. If I have an Elfstone in my hand and I have Treebeard in my hand, I will use the Elfstone to bring Treebeard out in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it's he's just wonderful, and yeah, as Grant said, he doesn't he fits well into the Ent archetype because he is another Ent, so he counts for booming Ents. You can play boomed and trumpeted with him, but he doesn't need that to function.
Right.
The only decks I'd say he doesn't go into are decks focused on a specific ally archetype. You know, if you're playing a Gondor deck with Leadership Boromir, he doesn't synergize, so he's probably not going to be in your deck. Outside of that,
yeah, like, you know, I've been playing or trying to build a encounter scrying deck to beat Battle of Lake Town. If I can keep my threat low enough and I can play Farsighted and all this stuff to try to keep my threat low enough and to kind of arrange the cards, I think that I can beat it. But the problem is I didn't have enough firepower to be able to like make any damage against Smog when this was happening. So
Smoke.
And so I said, "Oh, Treebeard." And so I put 3 copies of Treebeard in there, and it's still not perfected, but I definitely am a lot further along now because Treebeard is in that deck and can just about, you know, wreck anything and defend anything. 3 defense and 5 hit points is nuts. Like, that is nuts.
It's funny you mentioned this strategy against Smog because he's a tree, right? In that match, I feel like Treebeard does not have the advantage. He's a slow-moving tree, and Smog is a giant flying fire monster. But if it works, it works.
I think Treebeard would be at a severe disadvantage, even if he did like one of these branches on fire to cancel a shadow card.
Well, the nice part about Treebeard is that he almost acts as a 4th hero. You know, when you're looking at him and you bring in ally Treebeard, you can play other Ent cards and not use your own resources from your heroes to play those Ent cards, because a lot of Ents are 2 and 3 cost. So it's nice to have that resource smoothing if you're going to play the Ent archetype. But also the fact that you can pay the 2 and ready Treebeard really makes it nice, because then you don't have a big pile of resources on the Ent that aren't being used and you get frustrated. You can use the 2 and a lot of times I'll bring out Treebeard in the 2nd or 3rd round, and then I won't use his resources, and I'll let him pile up, for 2 or 3 or 4 rounds, and then I'll be able to ready him, a couple of times in the combat phase to either kill something or to be able to defend a whole bunch of times, and that's really good too, because at the beginning of the game, having that safety blanket out is nice, but a lot of times at the beginning of the game, the encounter deck isn't trying to wreck you from the very beginning. There are some exceptions, obviously.
Depends on what game have you been playing? Passage Through Mirkwood on easy mode?
Well, Grant and I did do that. So, but I think that this is a way to get ahead of the encounter deck real quickly. That's, I guess, is what I'm saying.
When I look at Treebeard, I think this is how Radagast should have been. The ally version of Radagast that came out in Journey to Roscabel. Whereas Radagast tried to do what Treebeard does with the resource collection to spend to bring out creatures. His stat line and his cost just kind of outweighed the balance for Radagast. Yet when they introduced Treebeard, they got it so right. They learned from their mistake.
I would say that even if this card were worth 5, it would still probably be worth it.
Oh, definitely, no two ways about it. But what I'm saying is, with Treebeard, his stats and everything, compared to how Radagast was, they they saw where they went wrong, and they.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I see. I totally get what you're saying, Grant. I was just commenting about you brought up cost, and because the big knock on that Radagast is, it's 5 cost for like 3 cost stats. This guy has a total stats of 14, and you're paying 4 for it. So, I mean, that's hero stats for 4 cost. And I know that you need to wait around unless you have readying, but
it's just a shame that you can't bring him out with Messenger of the King.
I know. You can't Messenger of the King him.
There's even him being an ally, like his ally stats are so big. That's actually his strength, because again, if you look at leadership cards, you have Ever Vigilant, which readies an ally. You have Strength of Arms if you're playing mono leadership, and he pairs well with leadership hero Faramir. Like, he's such a good target for leadership hero Faramir's ability, because you can quest for 2, engage an enemy, and then you have Treebeard to help you deal with that enemy.
Right.
And if you're running like a complete end deck, so to speak, with a lot of ends, and you run leadership, Grim Resolve.
Grim Resolve 2. Ready everything, and the ends are
yeah. Ready the whole world. That's a lot of resources to pay, but I mean, it's still I mean, that's the thing. Like the Ents, harum barum, the Ents go marching to try to,
The Ents go marching in. The Ents go marching in.
Yeah. Hi ho the Dario. The Ents go marching. No, but I mean, what's the downside of this guy? That's the question. Like, he fits into just about every deck unless you're playing a super thematic deck, which you can't put it. Like my Sylvan deck, I can't put Treebeard in, even though I probably could argue that you could put Treebeard into it, because the elves are the ones who taught Treebeard how to talk, right? So.
Yep. The elves did teach the Ents how to talk. They were the ones that give them as far as logos, they give them the ability to talk. But yeah.
I mean, so maybe you could go into a Sylvan or Noldor deck, but like a Hobbit deck, you can't put this guy in for. But maybe you could, because right,
Hobbits and Ents are a thing,
right?
There's that lore card, the Dam Bursts.
The Dam's Bursts, yeah.
And that readies your I think it readies your damaged Ent characters if you have an Ent and a Hobbit for 2.
Yeah,
I'm going off memory here. But that's always been a thematic, is to play Hobbits and Ents, and
only if you control a unique character with the Ent trait and another unique character with the Hobbit trait, I can ready each damaged Ent character you control.
Yeah, so he's half of that, right? He's your unique Ent,
right?
So if you have a unique Hobbit hero like Pippin,
and
for example,
the other awesome part about it is that you bring him in, and now you can play Ent draft on your Hobbits, because all you need is an Ent character in play, and then you can play Ent draft, and then you get an extra 2 hit points. Like, I mean, so back to my original question: where does this guy not go? Like, where can't you use him?
It's mostly against certain quests, I feel, because there are certain scenarios where playing an Ent deck it's not always good. Sometimes you need actions, you need willpower, you need attack strength. You need them the turn that you play them. So on scenarios where you just need to get up and go, him being in your opening hand, it depends on kind of what else you have. But if he's like what you're going to rely on, he takes 4 resources. So if you have no trick, you're not going to play him first turn. Unless you have, there's ways to get resources first turn, but Leadership Denethor or a couple leadership cards. He's still an Ent, and he still has that slow, enters play exhausted. Mm-hmm. When for 4 resources, you could play 2 allies that have 2 willpower, and that turn you could have 4 willpower.
You could play
ready to go.
two Ether swordsmen and have 6 willpower, I guess, is the alternative. But you can't play anything for 4 that has 4 attack and 3 defense and 5 hit points. Like for attacking and defending, Treebeard's the way to go, right?
Yeah, but it's easy enough to play 2 allies that have 2 attack strength, right? Veteran Axe Hand. There's a whole slew of them across different spheres. For the same amount of resources, you can get, combined stats,
right?
At least for willpower and attacking. It doesn't quite work that way for defending, right? Because you need the health and the defense pooled together. But so if you need that attack power right away, Treebeard's not gonna get it. But your deck probably has other things to do that. So
I think that this is the card that becomes one of those, like, if you're having an issue doing something, consider putting Treebeard in there. Like, that's like, if you're having a problem maybe questing, maybe not, but even so, 2 willpower and then to be able to ready without having some other trick up your sleeve, that is crazy. So I don't know. Attack and 3.
Don't say you don't know, David.
It's just my mind is blown about how good. That's why I accuse Chad of cheating. It's just because Treebeard feels like cheating when you put him in your deck. Like, and I think when I say cheating, I don't mean like it's so OP that it's broken, but it's on the verge for me that. I try to avoid using Treebeard sometimes just to see if I can do something around him. But he also solves so many problems in deck building that it's like, ugh.
The only time I don't, as Ted said, the only time I think he's got a problem is quest specific. Is quest specific, because obviously in the Steward Sphere and the as a Numino cycle, you have the treachery that kills an ally, and then you deal damage equal to that ally's cost to a hero you control.
Right.
Or its attack. It's something like that. So you could end up, if Treebeard gets targeted, losing like your hero and an expensive ally. So it comes down to quest. Knowing the quest that you're going up against, is it viable to run him in that quest? And is it going to kill you losing him?
Yeah, that's a good point, Grant. There's a lot of treachery cards in certain scenarios that either discard your highest cost ally, or there's that backstab one from
As a Numino.
There's a Numenor cycle, yeah. So there's quite a few of those, and if you put he's not a good fit, because you spend 4 resources to play him, and then he could be gone in 1 turn. If you can't stop that treachery.
Well, with
that's true. That's true with any of your power out. Like, you bring Gandalf out, you bring Elrond out, you bring any of these power allies out. The Brock Iron Fist.
Most of the power allies though are only 1 turn usage. Like Gandalf is 1 turn, Elrond 1 turn, Galadriel 1 turn. Fair enough for Brock. If you are stomaching the 6 resources to play him, fair dues.
I do have to say, so shout out to Matt, our newest patron. Again, we're playing the Hobbit saga through, and we started just recently, and we actually were able to play Brock because we lost a hero, and Brock came out, and I mean, it felt okay. But I also wouldn't call Brock a power hero, or power. He's 2/2/1 or whatever. 2/2/1/4. Like he's not like. He's not awesome.
Who are power
right? Beorn's a power hero, right?
Yeah.
And he stays around. Beorn's stats pale in comparison to this guy, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but Beorn also has the ability to go up to 8 attack.
Right, but then you have to get rid of him. This guy can can do half of that. I don't know. Like this. This guy is the gold standard of power allies, I think. is what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's up there.
He is. He's definitely in the top bracket for being one of the best power allies on the board.
He synergizes so well with some of the rings of power too, like playing him for free with Elrond. I forgot how such a with Vilya Elrond's ring, and then I forgot how he's such a stupid good target for Narya too.
Yeah,
Right. I know.
Like, yeah, I guess I'll just exhaust my Kieran or even exhaust Gandalf to ready Treebeard and then boost his attack to 5 and his defense to 4. Like,
Right, and then you can ready him with his
own
himself,
ability.
with his own ability,
and he keeps the stats.
He keeps.
I think it's till the
stats,
end of the
right.
phase.
Exactly. Like that's stupid. It's stupid good. It's stupid good. So
Yeah.
let's talk very quickly about things that Treebeard goes well with. I mean, obviously there's some things, but I think overwhelmingly Treebeard goes well with the Welling Hall Preserver.
Yeah.
And to have that healing for either Treebeard, especially the hero version, but this Treebeard I think also ends up becoming a pincushion for archery damage and things like that. So I think that having that built-in healing is really good. So what else goes well with Treebeard?
I think
Everything, right? Everything. There's nothing bad that goes.
Well, we've already mentioned some of them, like Elfstone, Timely Aid at a very good deal. Anything that allows you to bring them out for a reduced cost or for no cost is ideal to put them into play. So yes, you may not be able to ready that turn unless you've got something like Grim Resolve or Strength of Arms or something that allows you to ready characters. But once he's on the board, from the next turn, he is ready for whatever you need him to be ready for.
So it's almost like the encounter deck has to have a solution for Treebeard, which we talked about a little bit. Like some of those.
They do.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. That's a great point, Grant. Anything to reduce his cost is the way to go. And get a bargain. And even if you don't and you pay full price, he's neutral, so it's easy to do and totally worth it.
And I've paid full price for Treebeard many a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
me too.
I think most of us have. Well, should we wrap up this episode and ring this guy?
Yep. Okay, so the question is, all right, so go ahead and continue.
Okie doke.
I'm not just thinking out loud.
Okay. So, for anybody who is new to the show or doesn't remember, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we rank these cards on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 is the one card to rule them all, or the best card in the game, and 10 is, if we rank something 10 is the card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it was made, or not a very good card. So, who wants to go first here for this? Great. Grant, go ahead.
You just thrown me into it, are you, David?
I am. I'm throwing you there. Well, I know it. I can go. Do you want me to go?
Why don't you? Yes, go, David.
Okay. Here's what I'll say. I think this is the gold standard of allies in the game. And I think that him being neutral and him having all those stats, like even the drawback of having to wait around to use him because he's exhausted doesn't hold it back. So I'm gonna rate this guy a 1. He's a 1.
Whoa!
I'm dropping the 1 bomb on
a 1
Treebeard.
bomb.
Yep. Okay, who's next? Grant.
I was going to give him a 2. He's brilliant and he works very well in almost every situation, but I can't give him the 1.
You can't give him the 1?
As much as I may want to, I just can't do it.
Oh, that's so horrible.
Okay, Ted, how about you?
I wish I would have prepped this. I was trying to figure out how many rings he is. I don't know.
Oh, because of how old he is.
So Treebeard is 17,000 years old, and I was trying to calculate how many rings he would have if you were to cut him open and then measure his age.
That would be
So,
17,000.
I give him 17,000 rings.
So he's worse than Brock Ironfist, is what you're saying. Good.
Oh boy, I'm gonna give him a 2.
A 2. You guys aren't going to drop the 1 bomb on him, huh?
Yeah, I'm reserving my 1 rating, but he's like, if you want an ally to do things, he does those things, and he does them well.
He does them really well. Yeah.
That's it. His one downside is that he's unique, right? So there's only going to be one of him. That's his biggest weakness.
Ted, you're famous for saying the biggest weakness for any card is that you have to draw it.
That true. That too.
Right. Yeah. So, okay, well, there you have it, guys. I'm right, and the other 2 guys are wrong. So join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Have a great day. And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube, where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself, or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.